Hi, the Jack Green here. This is Crash Course 101, focusing on the U.S. history of the 1920s and World War I. The outbreak of World War I originates from the assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Serbian patriot. Almost overnight, the European countries were locked in a fight to the death. One side was the Central Powers, or the Triple Alliance, consisting of Germany and Austria-Hungary, and later joined by Turkey and Bulgaria. On the other side were the Triple Entente, consisting of Britain, France, and Russia, but later joined by Italy and Japan. By the following spring, German U-boats had already sunk almost 100 ships, one of which was the British passenger liner the Lusitania. In this incident, there were over 1,200 casualties, including over 100 American deaths. Additionally, there were approximately 4,200 small arms cases to supply war supplies to Britain. America was shocked at this incident and claimed it as mass murder and piracy. Generally, the American public was divided on the issue of whether or not to go to war. The eastern United States were ready to go to war with Germany and Austria-Hungary. However, the rest of the United States were generally not wanting to. Woodrow Wilson responded to this by issuing the Sussex Ultimatum, which stated that Germany would have to give warning to any passenger or merchant ship before torpedoing them. However, Germany stated that they would only accept this offer if the Americans would stop the blockade of German ports. Woodrow Wilson, the lover of peace, gave a speech on January 22, 1917, stating that America should have peace without victory, and also restating the idea of neutral rights for all. On January 31st, 1917, a couple days after Woodrow Wilson's address, Germany announced to the world their wartime strategy of unrestricted submarine warfare on any nation's ship in wartime waters. German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann proposed to the German government to alliance with the Mexican government against the United States of America. However, this proposal was intercepted by British radioists, and they sent it to the U.S. government, and this caused public outrage in America, and they cried for war. Stan, don't you just love sluts? No. Not people. The acronym. Sussex Ultimatum, Lusitania, Unrestricted Submarine Warfare, Treaties, and lastly, the Zimmermann. Woodrow Wilson quickly became recognized as a moral leader of allies because his response to the war thus far was contained in what came to be known as the 14 points, some of which are end to secret treaties, widespread arms reduction, natural self-determination, and a new League of Nations. Let's go to the real-life bubble.
After Woodrow Wilson's 14 points were announced, the Espionage Act and Sedition Acts were passed. The Espionage Act was a law with the draft and other acts of national disloyalty together with the Sedition Act of 1918, which added penalties for abusing the government in writing. These created a climate that was unfriendly civil liberties.
These acts triggered fears of Germans and anti-war Americans. Additionally, any criticism of the United States government was censored and punished. Many claimed that this violated the First Amendment right of the Americans. However, in Schenck versus the United States, the Supreme Court upheld the right of the United States government to suspend certain civil liberties in response to the defense of the United States. This led to an ugly chapter in the United States civil liberties. The War Industries Board was headed by Bernard Baruch. This federal agency coordinated industrial production during World War I, setting production quotas, allocating raw materials, and pushing companies to increase efficiency and eliminate waste. Under the economic mobilization of the War Industries Board, industries produced in the United States 20% more goods during the war. World War I concluded with this vengeful document, which secured peace but imposed sharp terms on Germany, and created a territorial mandate system to manage former colonies and the world powers. To Woodrow Wilson's chagrin, it incorporated very few of his original 14 points. although it did include the League of Nations that Wilson had long sought. Isolationists in the United States, deeply opposed to the League, led the opposition to the treaty, which was never ratified by the Senate. Let's go to the real-life bubble.
Prior to the 20s, President Taft presided over the National War Labor Board that aimed to prevent labor unions by encouraging high wages and an 8-hour day.
Following the National War Labor Board, Congress passed the 18th Amendment, which prohibited the manufacturing, distribution, and consumption of any alcoholic beverage in America. And now it's time for the mystery document. After the prohibition of alcohol set forth in the 18th Amendment were the bond drives of war bonds or debt securities issued by the government to finance military operations and other expenditures in times of war. Also, Liberty loans, which were war bonds sold in the United States to support the Allied cause in World War I. Is it Jude? No! Following the outbreak of World War I, the German army opened the Western Front by first invading Luxembourg and Belgium, then gaining military control of important industrial regions in France. The AEF, or the American Expeditionary Force, was an American force of 14,500 men that landed in France in June of 1917 under the command of General John Pershing. The AEF assumed independent responsibility and duty for one segment of the Western Front.
I hate it.
The first major battle the American troops fought in was in the Battle of the Argonne Forest. Under General Pershing, the American soldiers helped the Allies to defeat the Central Powers, in one of the most crucial victories to the Allied war effort in defeating the Central Powers. In this treaty, the League of Nations was established. The League of Nations is an organization of national governments proposed by Woodrow Wilson. All he wanted was international peaceful cooperation. Here's Germany right now. What's up? Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, no problem, We're homies. Alright. Bye. Following the League of Nations, an idea arose in the global community. It's called self-determination. Self-determination is when a nation has the right to freely choose their sovereignty and their political status in the global governments. The effects and outcomes of World War I greatly affected the election of 1920. The candidates for the election were Warren G. Harding, James Cox, and former President Theodore Roosevelt. However, Roosevelt, due to a lack of health in 1918, was forced to quit the running of the president. Harding won 37 of the states, making it a landslide victory for him. Back to the real-life bubble.
Warren G. Harding promised a return to normalcy in the new era. People of the United States wanted a quality president who would not force them to be so involved. This was known as normalcy.
After his election and his promise of normalcy, many other controversial aspects filled his presidency. Harding's cabinet included Albert Fall and Harry Daugherty, tainted the entire group. Fall was the Secretary of the Interior, and as protector of the nation's resources, he was known as the wolf hired to protect the sheep. Daugherty, the Attorney General, was supposed to prosecute wrongdoers. However, he was a major player in the Ohio gang, and because of this, corporations expanded, antitrust laws were ignored, and monopolies were possible. After World War I, Harding and the most of America believed that America should be isolationist. After the U.S. rejected the Treaty of Versailles, the solution to the war included the idea of the lone wolf tactics. America thus had the overall feeling of isolationism, which meant the rejection and neutrality to foreign affairs. Starting in 1916, many African Americans migrated to the North and Midwest to escape the discrimination of the South and also to find better economical opportunities. Thank you for watching another Crash Course 101. This is Jack Green, and thank you to Trendolds45 at lisd.org for making all this history possible, especially during the World War I and Roaring Twenties eras.
Put it me down, down. 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 Put it me